Colonel Vindman, I start with you. I follow your appearances wherever they are, and I want your take on what's happened today in Ukraine and on what Kira and Cal are reporting, that things could be deteriorating.
They are. It's still quite a precarious situation. I think it's early days, day 5. They have not gone well at all for Russia, and they've gone pretty well given the fact that Ukraine is taking the brunt of this offensive. They've gone pretty well. The offensive is stalled, and Russia has committed a large portion of its force without achieving its critical objectives of securing the major cities, including Kiev. So the question is, what does Russia do now? They had this battle plan that was designed on this false assumption of peacekeepers moving in and being welcomed in. You could tell that because the soldiers that are being captured by the Ukrainian armed forces have no idea why they're being shot at, a lot of them. And it's shocking because it's such a foreign concept for anybody operating from the U.S. military perspective. And there's a very good chance that Putin doesn't end it here. He does a major escalation and does the kinds of things that he's done in Grozny, most recently in Syria, and he starts to bomb the population centers. The problem with that, of course, is this kinship between the Ukrainian people and the Russian people that don't want this war, have been told that this is a peacekeeping operation to remove Nazis, and that's false. And the Russian people have not had to bear the cost yet with regards to casualties. Those seem to be pouring in by the thousands by Ukrainian accounts. If that's true, that is a lot of casualties. During Afghanistan, 10 years, 15,000 Russian soldiers died. Somewhere on the order of 4,500 to 5,000 soldiers potentially have died in just 5 days of campaigning here in Ukraine. And these sanctions that just rolled out now, Monday, with markets opening, haven't been priced in, haven't been baked in. So Putin has a lot of instability that he's facing in the short term that he wasn't counting on. He was counting on a swift victory. So he doesn't have very good options. He has bad options that are likely to get worse as this campaign grinds on and he fails to achieve his military objectives.
Let me show all of you some reporting from my colleague Allison Barber of, as I keep saying, the human calamity unfolding.
And Fazli says that we must go to the border because it's too dangerous to stay in Ukraine.
What did he tell you with your little sisters? What did he say to you to do with your family?
She told me that I must protect them and protect all family and be strong.
Next boot, that was a 15-year-old Ukrainian with his sisters told to protect the whole family and be strong. This is Vladimir Putin's doing, but Vladimir Putin had cheerleaders at the highest levels of the party in which you and I both once belonged until, I don't know, Thursday, and I think among some of them still. What is the stain on the American Republican Party as this human tragedy comes into focus?
Well, it's staggering to think, Nicole, that it was just a few days ago that former President Donald Trump described Putin's war of aggression against Ukraine as an act of genius. He described it as a really smart move. I mean, that is staggering. This is the most popular political leader in the Republican Party. And of course, Tucker Carlson, who is the most popular broadcaster within the Republican Party, has been just as pro-Putin. Now, you would think that this could be an opportunity for a reorientation, a gut check, a turning away from the direction the Republican Party has been on for the last several years. But, you know, I thought the same thing after January 6th, the insurrection, the attack on the Capitol. I thought, OK, finally, this might make Republicans come to their senses and break with Trump. And you would think that now, you know, seeing the kind of hell that Putin and his criminal regime have unleashed on the poor people of Ukraine, this might cause Republicans to think, well, why are we following fans of Putin? Why are we going down this path when we have a proud heritage as a Republican Party of standing up to Soviet and Russian aggression, resisting what Ronald Reagan called the evil empire. So this is really a gut check moment for the Republican Party. And frankly, I wish I was more confident that would lead to a change of direction. After all that we've seen the last 5-6 years, I just have very little faith in the Republican Party, no matter what happens.
And it's one-time standard bearer, Claire. I actually share Max's pessimism with Mitt Romney calling them morons. So that's kind of where we are. This is who we are. Let me show you what the current president's press secretary, Jen Psaki, said on the air with my colleagues, Peter Alexander and Kristen Walker, earlier today.
Here's what's important for everybody to know about a no-fly zone. What that would require is implementation by the U.S. military. It would essentially mean the U.S. military would be shooting down planes, Russian planes. That is definitely escalatory. That would potentially put us into a place where we're in a military conflict with Russia. That is not something the president wants to do. Well, the president wants to be direct, has always wanted to be direct with the American people about what he will do and what he will not do. He is not sending U.S. forces, men and women who fight for our military, into Ukraine to fight a war with Russia. We are not going to have a military war with Russia with U.S. troops. And he thinks it's vitally important and first and foremost important to be direct with the public about that.
From the beginning, in their aggressive effort to collect, analyze, and declassify intelligence, as this conflict has, as Colonel Vindman said, roared into its 5th day, the administration has been everywhere. They've been articulating what U.S. policy is. They've been sort of cajoling the allies, and they've been abundantly clear about what the U.S. will and will not do. What do you make of this moment in the Biden presidency? It's not, I think, what they thought they'd be doing this week, this month, but what's your take of how they're doing so far?
Well, if everyone who is a Republican wasn't so anxious to blame Biden for the sun coming up in the morning, I think a really clear-eyed view of what is going on right now shows that Biden and his administration, first, they got the information out there that ruined Putin's plan to have an excuse for this murderous aggression. They did that first. Secondly, it appears that they united NATO that had been, by the way, can I just add an aside here?
Anything.
Trump saying that he strengthened NATO is almost as bad as Putin saying that the Ukrainian government was full of Nazis. These are both liars. They are just big, fat liars. And it's so frustrating that at a moment when our country should come together and frankly realize that what Biden has done has been pretty darn effective. I mean, think about this. The ruble crashed. They can't even open their stock market. The interest rate went to 20% overnight. All of a sudden, the oligarchs' money is frozen, and the reserves that Putin had been building up, we have effectively figured out a way to clamp down on them being able to milk the money that Putin put aside to deal with these sanctions. Yeah. So economically, and overnight, Biden, in conjunction with the Western allies, have not only become united, they've made Russia a pariah. I mean, you don't think it's bugging Putin that the Bolshoi is now being told they can't dance anywhere?
From the soccer team.
His athletes can no longer compete in the Olympics. I mean, this is a guy who's more about that than he is caring about the Russian people.